All right. Well, thank you both so much for coming in. I've already met with you each individually, so you already know who I am and what we're about here in conflict resolution and student services. So I want to go ahead and take a moment to thank you both for coming in and taking the time to help resolve this issue. I know it takes a lot of courage to share your perspective and share your sides and maybe confront each other, and it might be a little bit uncomfortable. But again, props to each of you for making that effort and setting aside the time to come in and do this together. So my role in this session is to be completely neutral. I don't have any interest in the final outcome. I'm not a stakeholder. I'm just here to help facilitate the discussion and get you both to an end result where you feel comfortable continuing to live each other. If that's not how it works out, you feel comfortable ending the lease agreements. But again, we'll take that as it comes through this process. So the process of the meeting itself will go ahead and take about 3 to 4 minutes each for you to share your own perspectives. This is uninterrupted time. So while each of you are speaking, it will be a priority for the other person not to interrupt, and including myself, but to really actively listen to each perspective and make sure we're hearing each other. After we take that uninterrupted time, we'll go ahead and identify some of the issues at hand, try to brainstorm some solutions, and then eventually come up with an agreement that you both feel will work and is realistic. We don't want to come up with an agreement that you don't feel confident in or that will only work for 2 weeks and then you're back in the same boat, because that's not really helping anybody. So my goal for the end of this session, again, is to come up with that agreement to make sure you feel comfortable with the resolve, with the solution at this point, and feeling comfortable enough to walk away from this meeting in hopes that maybe your friendship can be maintained and that you can go ahead and move forward. So questions about the process, and I'd also love to hear about your goals for this meeting.
I would really just like to clarify whether or not we're going to live together, because it's adding a lot of stress that I just don't need, and I just really need this to be concrete and done, whether it means a better friendship for us or whether it means that we part separate ways for better.
Okay.
So I just really want to get to that point.
Okay. So you think by the end of this meeting it's necessary to come to a concrete conclusion and figure out what the next steps are going to be and not leave this meeting open-ended. That's what I'm hearing.
Absolutely.
Okay. Hannah, anything from you? Any goals or questions?
Nope.
No? Okay. Again, props for coming in to this meeting. And I want to set some ground rules ahead of time to make sure that this meeting is as successful as it can be. So first of all, no name calling. Watch your language. I know it's hard when you're sharing your perspectives, and maybe in the heat of the moment when a lot of emotions come up, it's hard to really think about the impact that your words will have. But during this time, keep in mind that we do need to be respectful in order for this meeting to go as well as it can. Any ground rules that you would like to add? I want your input in this as well, because you are the ones, you're the ones holding interest at the end of this meeting.
As long as we're not bringing up past conflicts that have already been resolved, I think we can move forward.
Okay, so leave the past in the past.
I agree.
And just focus on the future. All right, anything else? All right. Last thing I want to bring up is confidentiality. It's really up to you who you want to share this meeting with and the information that is disclosed. Usually it works best for both parties, at least in the beginning, to agree that this meeting remains confidential, at least for some period of time. And if you do need to ever share what goes on in this meeting outside of you two and outside of myself here in conflict resolution, that's something that you two need to discuss with each other. But at this point, do you have any concerns about confidentiality or any questions about what that might look like in the future?
No.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Do either of you want to go ahead and go first and take on that uninterrupted perspective time?
Well, I think since most of the problems stem from Hannah here, I think she should go first.
Okay.
That's kind of you.
Hannah, do you feel comfortable with that?
Sure, why not?
All right. Go ahead. You've got the floor.
I guess one of my big issues is that Rachel was late on getting her money to me for that bill, and now I'm going to have to pay late fees, and that'll impact my credit, and it's just no good. And I wish she would have at least told me she was going to be late.
Okay.
So.
I hear you saying that it's really important to pay the bills on time, obviously, because it affects the rest of your life.
Yes.
But you are dedicated to making sure that you you know that everything's timely and in an orderly fashion. That's something, that's a value that you have.
Yes.
Okay. What other perspectives do you have to share? Tell me what's going on with this issue between the two of you.
I feel like she's never home anymore. She doesn't help house cleaning, the dishes, things like that. She's just never here.
Okay. And how do you feel about that when it comes to your friendship? Do you feel like that affects your friendship at all?
Yeah, we used to do stuff together, cook, go grocery shopping, go to the movies. But now she spends all her time with Dave.
Okay. Tell me more about Dave and your perspective on him and how that's playing a part in this issue.
I feel like Dave's not a very nice fellow, since I can't even call.
Okay. Okay. And tell me about how you get that feeling and those perspectives. Where does that come from?
I guess the way he treats Rachel.
Okay. That's a big concern. I can imagine if I had a close friend that I didn't feel was in a great relationship, I can imagine I would also feel a little upset by that. Anything else that's going on that you feel like I need to know to help resolve this issue, or that you just want to put out there and clear the air about?
Not that I can think of right now.
Okay. All right. So the big issues I heard from you were that you were upset that she didn't let you know that she was going to be late with the rent money. And then also you don't feel totally supportive of her relationship with Dave, and that's maybe detracting from the time you two spend together as friends.
Yes, I feel like she's kind of sacrificing our friendship for him.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing, Hannah. Rachel, why don't you go ahead and take a few minutes? We don't necessarily want this to be a counterplay and to be attacking each other for what the other person has said, but I would like to hear some of your perspectives and what you're bringing to the table.
Well, I feel like I'm constantly busy. I mean, I have work for 30 hours, and then I go to school for 18 credits, and tack on the homework on top of that. It's a heavy load, and sometimes things slip here and there. And, with bills, sometimes I'm not always super timely. However, there's normally, a couple-day grace period, so I wasn't too terribly concerned given the wide scope of things. However, with our friendship, I feel like I'm still actively trying. I'm trying to reach out to her, but her resentment towards Dave is so harsh that any time that I feel like I'm happy and, talking about him, or, just trying to really gossip with her, or just, be the friends that we used to be, she just doesn't understand why I'm so attached to this guy. And she almost seems like she's jealous, and that, I'm trying to spend time with both of them, but she's just not there when I reach to her. I guess some of the other issues too that have kind of come up is I try to, balance my time as best as I can. And so I typically spend the night over at Dave's house pretty frequently, whether, it's during the week or on the weekend. And I don't always feel the need to tell her when I'm spending the night over there, but I expect to come home and still have this be my home. And the other night I came home and there was a stranger sleeping in my bed, kind of passed out drunk. I mean, there was beer bottles everywhere, and I just felt a complete lack of respect for my space. I mean, that's kind of my room. I kind of, I'd prefer that there's no strangers there when I come home to sleep in my own bed. And kind of on that note too, with her, she's kind of just passive aggressively kind of attacking me. I mean, she's not very confrontational as far as, she won't actively say, hey, this is an issue. She'll say, no, everything's fine, and then leave me a note. Just harsh words on her notes that she leaves around, and then she doesn't buy toilet paper or dish soap or anything that we share. So it's it's like she's punishing me for my way of life, and then coming back and saying, well, you're not a good friend. So it's been hard.
Okay. So a few things that I've heard you saying, you don't feel like there was a grace period with the bill, and you were maybe expecting a little bit more leniency or flexibility with that bill paying time. And so what happened didn't meet your expectations. Secondly, you do feel like you have a great relationship with Dave, and you don't feel supported in that relationship through your friendship right now. It sounds like there might be some communication issues about the different values you have as friends. And then you also feel like this space is important for you to come home to. And like you said, it is still a home, and you still value this space, even if you spend a lot of time with Dave. Is that correct?
It is.
Okay. Anything else you each feel like you need to add to clarify the situation? No? Okay. So at this point, I think we need to go ahead and brainstorm some issues about, what's going on here at hand, and then that'll help us generate some solutions. So the first issue I'm hearing is communication. Communication about the bills, communication about your values as friends. That seems like a big one between you two. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead and write that down. And another issue I hear coming up is your comparison of what your friendship used to be and to what it is now. And both of you, I hear you saying that you're both upset about what your friendship now looks like and what you'd like it to become. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I do think it's important to address the situation when you came home the other night with a stranger sleeping in your bed. And again, you've indicated that you feel like this should still be a home for you to come home to again, even if you're spending a lot of time with Dave. So maybe the issue there is just standards that you two maybe haven't talked about before, and that you aren't on the same page about what this space means to each of you and what you need from each other to make this space still feel like home and still feel like you're welcomed here. How do you feel about that issue? Is there anything you'd like to clarify or add?
Well, our shared spaces, we've always been really good with sharing and knowing that, if a friend is drunk, that's fine. We have a couch, we have, the extra room. However, I feel like, rooms are rooms for a reason. That's your space. That's space to come away from being a roommate and being on your own. And so to have that violated, I guess I just don't understand her thought process there.
Okay, so maybe we need to clarify the guidelines about, clarify guidelines and expectations from each other about how you treat each other's spaces, especially your personal spaces like your rooms. Is that something we can bring to the table too?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any other issues that you feel we need to talk about before we brainstorm some solutions?
Well, I feel like, so with Hannah's kind of view on Dave, I feel like that needs to be addressed because it is very passively aggressively attacking me for it. So I guess we need to clarify her view and my view on boyfriends and expectations of our friendship. And I know we kind of touched on that with our friendship, kind of, where it is now versus when we were good. But it just, I feel like Dave is such a big issue, and I feel like we really need to touch on how to fix that.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the situation around Dave more accurately. Overall, I hear Hannah saying that you feel like Dave has taken away from the friendship, and that you don't feel like he treats Rachel as best as she maybe should be treated, or as well as she should be treated. Okay. But Rachel, I hear you saying that you have a strong relationship with Dave, and you're confident in that relationship right now, and you're happy with it, and that you value your relationship with Dave just as much as your friendship with Hannah.
I do. I mean, our friendship, Hannah and I's friendship was great, and bringing Dave into that, he kind of fit into the puzzle very well of my life and kind of came in, and I don't see him as a distraction at all from our friendship. I don't understand why it feels like it has to be that way. Hannah's kind of made this space of whether it's all or nothing, it's either her or him, and I don't get why it can't be both. I mean, they both support me, or Hannah used to support me wonderfully, and Dave supports me just as much, and I don't feel that I should have to sacrifice one or the other.
Okay. Hannah, I think it might be important for you at this point to share your justification as to why you don't think Dave is treating Rachel as well as he should, and go a little bit deeper on that.
Well, I guess part of the problem is she never brings Dave over here.
Okay.
I only know Dave through what she says in the occasional hi and passing.
Okay.
So she either is telling me how great and wonderful he is, or how much she doesn't like him and is thinking about breaking up with him.
Okay. Okay. So you don't think that you maybe see as much as Dave as you would like to evaluate the relationship? Is that kind of the deeper issue?
It's hard to really get to know him as a person just through her perspective.
Okay. Okay. So you would like to get to know him a little bit more and to spend more time with him and have him come around more often.
I feel like if he's going to be a big part of Rachel's life, that would be understandable.
Okay. Okay. Any other perspectives that you would want to share about how he treats Rachel? Because that's something that I feel like is really important to you. And I'm not sure that I understand as a neutral facilitator at this point how to best help clarify that issue.
I mean, should I set up a date for you two, or what?
So maybe that's a solution that we can brainstorm after we get through these issues. And that might be something on the table, just to validate that your friendship is so important, as is your relationship with Dave. And those two can exist simultaneously. But anything else that you would like to share from your perspective about the relationship?
I don't think so.
Okay, so you feel like that's covered. Okay, so Rachel, you went ahead and moved into some solutions. I think it would be helpful to go ahead and resolve some of the communication issues and clarify expectations before we move on to your friendship and what's going on with your friendship right now, especially in context with Dave. Because I feel, and what I've been hearing is that a lot of the communication issues feed into the conflict with Dave and how that's affecting your friendship. Does that sound like an okay plan right now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about the bill and how that was paid late. What sort of communication strategies do you have right now in letting each other know what bills are due and what needs to happen for payment?
Well, the bills just get put up on this board and then kind of forgotten about. So, I mean, we write the date on them, but if I'm constantly in and out worrying about a million other different things, I don't think to look up there and memorize those dates.
Okay.
I feel like better organization on that would be best.
Okay. Hannah, do you have any additional insights on this strategy that you currently use?
I feel like it's posted in a public area so she can see it every day.
Okay. Okay, so maybe it's just a matter of making sure that each of you are aware of the dates and making sure maybe we could set up a timeline. So 10 days in advance, you would say, hey, I got this bill, it's due in 10 days. 5 days, you would set out another reminder, maybe put up another note where you would both see it. So on the doorknob, or if you have pets, on their food dish or something like that. So it is a gentle reminder as we lead up to when the bill is due. What do you think of that? Any additions, criticisms, problems that you see with that solution?
I feel like it's a lot more work.
Okay.
I feel something simpler, as in, I mean, we have smartphones for a reason. Setting reminders on our phones when we get the bills, sitting down and saying, hey, we're going to make this our bill day. We're going to pay them all right here.
Okay.
And then over, done with, don't have to think about it. Don't have to constantly leave each other notes, especially since my dog likes to eat notes.
Okay. So maybe instead of using the timeline, we can just set a day each month to go ahead and sit down together, talk about the bills you have, what you need from each other to make sure that bill is paid on time, and that way it's over and done with in one sitting and you don't have to put it off. How does that sound for a solution?
That sounds perfect.
That sounds good.
Anna? Okay, so meeting once per month about the bills. I think it's important to nail out the details on that one. How soon in advance you'd like to meet about the bills? Do you want to meet with each other as soon as you get the bill? Do you want to give it a few days?
I'd say depending on the timeline of the bill. I mean, if it's due next week, then we need to meet. And I think meeting at least 1 week before they're due would be appropriate, so that we have time to mail them and such.
Okay, so meeting at least 1 week before the bill is due. All right. Any other comments about the bill situation and payments or communication on that front?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay. So I'd like to go ahead and talk about your expectations for each other in this space and what this means for you as a home and solutions that could help each of you feel comfortable in this space as your home. So it seems like the issue that's stemming from is when, Rachel, you came home and found someone in your bed that you weren't told about beforehand and you weren't aware that they would be staying the night. I guess from my perspective, I could see a solution being just making sure that you communicate with each other, whether it's a text or a phone call or just verbally passing before the day starts that, hey, you're going to have a friend over tonight. Is it okay if they sleep on our couch, if we set up an air mattress? From my perspective, again, that seems like a solution, but what do you all think? What would be most effective for each of you?
I think communication needs to be, definitely improved there. I mean, just a simple, hey, are you coming home tonight? I have a friend. Can he sleep in your bed, or would you prefer he sleeps on the couch? I mean, just a simple, I guess, asking my permission for such a personal space and such use of it would have been really nice, rather than her just assuming it would be fine and me not really knowing about it.
Okay, so it sounds like permission for you is really important, since it also is your space. It's a shared space.
Mm-hmm.
Hannah, what do you think of that solution? Is that doable for you? Will that work for you?
I think so, yes, but half the time when I text her anymore, she doesn't even respond.
Okay. So maybe it needs to be a joint effort to make sure that whoever, we communicate and send the text in the first place, and the other person acknowledges that they received that. Rachel, I understand that you're busy. Hannah, I'm sure you are too. You have both have a lot on your plates. So maybe give it a few hours for her to respond and not expect a response right away, but make it a priority to respond to that initial communication effort to make sure that both sides are on the same page. How does that sound?
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Okay, so I'm going to write down an expectation to communicate about visitors and an expectation for each person to acknowledge that they receive the communication and are okay with it. Okay? Any other issues there that you don't feel like we've discussed besides the friendship and then the relationship with Dave?
I feel like house duties should be part of this discussion too, as far as who does what and when.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about what you're seeing, how you're seeing that play out.
It seems like she never unloads and loads the dishwasher and things like that.
Okay. Rachel, do you have anything to add on that expectation?
Well, I mean, if she's doing dishes 4 times a day, I don't have time to come home and unload it every single time she does them. I feel that, if I get home from a 14-hour day and all I want to do is go to bed, kind of unloading the dishwasher is the last thing on my mind. Not to say that in the morning if I wake up decently, I won't do it then, but it seems that there's this expectation of if I don't do it as soon as I get home in that exact moment, then I get kind of punished and resented for it.
Okay. So maybe just setting a standard of eventually getting around to it, maybe set a 24-hour grace period and acknowledge that both of you need to contribute to the household chores. Maybe that looks like making a list for each of you and writing down everything that needs to be done, and then setting responsibilities. I don't know if that's something you feel would work, or any suggestions you would have on top of that.
No, I think if we kind of have a list, then I can at least, know what's expected and get around to it, rather than her getting mad at me if I don't do it in her exact timeline.
Okay. Hannah, how do you feel about a list of expectations and things that need to be done around the house? And also that 24-hour grace period, because again, I know both of you have a lot going on right now.
I think 24 hours sounds reasonable.
Okay. So I'll write down a list of expectations around the house and then that 24-hour period. All right, last thing, making sure we generate a solution about the friendship, because I feel like this is probably the most integral issue to what's going on right now. When was the last time you actually hung out together and spent time together as friends without Dave coming over, without any other distractions or visitors?
It's been a long time. I mean, we're constantly busy, and the times that I do say, hey, let's go hang out, she's too tired or she's doing something else and doesn't really make the effort to do it. So there's that.
Okay. So you don't feel like it's always both sides, it's mutually, I guess neither of you feel like it's a commitment on both of your parts to spend time together? Is that
right? I mean, ever since Dave, she just wants me to kind of dump him and just spend all my free time with her. And that's just not physically possible.
Okay. Hannah, anything you'd like to add about how you feel about, making time to spend with each other, when the last time that was?
I feel like the only time that she hangs out with me anymore is if Dave's busy.
Okay. So what if a solution to that was setting a time, maybe once a week, whether it's 30 minutes, whether it's an hour, maybe you two cook dinner together. I know that's something that you used to do often, or go shopping together for groceries. Just setting aside some time each week to just hang out, the two of you, without Dave, without TV, without visitors coming around. Is that realistic?
Yeah, I think that's realistic. I think Hannah needs to realize that part of time management is when people are busy, then I make plans with someone else, and to not hold me in an expectation where even if he's not busy, I'll hang out with her.
Okay.
I think it's just simple time management of, this is the way I manage my time, and I'll still make time for her.
Okay. Hannah, anything you'd like to add?
Maybe that's the way she views it, but I feel like it makes me second choice.
Okay. So at this point, rather than addressing why you two are spending your time together or in what context you two are spending your time together, just focusing on the absolute fact of spending time together, regardless of why or what the reasons may be behind it. And then at a later date, we can meet and discuss how that's going for you, and kind of continue that conversation. But just for now, making it a priority to actually spend time with each other. Do you think it's reasonable to say once a week and set that expectation?
Yeah, I think that sounds fine.
We can try that.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like for now we've come up with a list of solutions. I have meeting once a month about bills, to communicate about those and the deadlines, an expectation to communicate about the visitors and acknowledge that both of you receive that communication. A list of expectations to get done around the house and grant each other a 24-hour grace period with an understanding that you do have a lot going on. And then finally, make an effort to spend time with each other at least once a week, regardless of the reasons why you chose that time or the context that that's in. Does that all sound fair and reasonable? Are you confident in those solutions?
Yeah, I think
so.
I think if we could do that, then I might consider actually staying.
Okay.
Breaking my news.
That's an awesome goal to have. So I'll go ahead and draft up this agreement with these 4 expectations. I'll also include in there the confidentiality clause that we agreed at the beginning of this meeting, that what we shared at this meeting with each other will stay here in this space for now and won't leave the 3 of us. And I'll go ahead and send that out to you today. You can go ahead and look it over, review it, add any suggestions. If you thought about it and have concerns about it, please let me know, because again, this is an agreement we want to be sustainable and something that'll actually work in the end. So I'll draft that up, I'll email it out to you. If you can respond to me within 24 hours about any concerns or revisions that you have. And then maybe we can meet up. I'll contact each of you in 2 to 3 weeks to see how things are going. And at that point, evaluate if we need to have another meeting together. How does that all sound?
Sounds good.
All right, questions?
No.
Nope. All right. Well, thank you both for coming in. I really appreciate it. We'll be in touch about this agreement and then a future meeting, and I'll touch base with you and keep in contact with each of you. All righty? All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you both.
Thank you.